What are some awful things that celebrities have done? The Kennedy family lobotomized their daughter over mood swings and seizures and locked her away in a care home. Halle Berry ran a red light, rammed her car into another woman's car, and then drove away, leaving the other woman completely alone. Paul Walker allegedly dated not one, but two 16-year-old girls, once when he was 28, and again at 33. His girlfriend was 23 when he died, and they'd reportedly been dating for 7 years. This old chestnut regarding scene pen, taken from an old news article. According to a report filed by Madonna with the Malibu Sheriff's Office, Penn scaled the wall surrounding the Malibu house in the late afternoon of December 28, 1989, and found Madonna alone in the master bedroom. The two began to quarrel. Penn told her he owned her back lock, stock and barrel. When she told him she was leaving the house, he tried to bind her hands with an electric lamp and cord. Screaming and afraid, Madonna fled from the bedroom. What followed was a 9-hour ordeal which left her deeply shaken. Penn chased her into the living room, caught her and bound her to a chair with heavy twine. Then he threatened to cut off her hair. According to the police report, Penn was back drinking liquor straight from the bottle, and the abuse went on for several hours, during which time he smacked and roughed up his victim. He went out to buy more alcohol, leaving Madonna bound and gagged. Some hours later, he returned and continued his attacks. Madonna said that he untied her after she agreed to perform a degrading intimate act on him. She then fled the house and ran to her car. Penn ran after her and was banging on the windows of her Thunderbird while she spoke to police on her mobile phone. 15 minutes later, she staggered into the sheriff's office. Lou Bill McSweeney said, "I hardly recognized her as Madonna. She was weeping, her lip was bleeding, and she had obviously been struck." Penn was taken away in handcuffs and charged with inflicting corporal injury and traumatic conditions on her, as well as committing battery. Mark Wahlberg. At 13, Wahlberg was already a druggie, reportedly addicted to coke. During these years, he was repeatedly dealt civil action following incidents where he threw rocks at African American children and screamed racial epithets at them. At 16, he even assaulted two middle-aged Vietnamese men on the street, even bashing one over the head with a piece of wood. Wahlberg was sentenced to 2 years in the Suffolk County Deer Island House of Correction for his crimes, but he ultimately only served 45 days in prison. Though, since his time in prison, he's made a concentrated effort to be a better person, and has even met with the people he attacked to ask forgiveness, so maybe he's not all bad. Chris Brown. The answer is always Chris Brown. I know there are celebrities who have done worse, but most of them have either gotten in trouble or faded from popularity, but somehow Chris Brown never dropped and still has a solid career. Not sure if this applies, since he's been dead a while now, but Steve Jobs completely dumped his first wife, and for years just flat out denied that he was the father of their daughter, denied them any financial support or support of any kind. Total narcissistic behavior. Jobs did many other despicable things to many other people throughout his career as well, yet the Apple stands and entrepreneurs still persist in their deification of the man. In March 2013, Justin Bieber went after a paparazzo outside of his hotel in London. He launched into a profanity-laced threat to physically assault the photographer before being dragged away by a bodyguard. Then, in October 2014, he punched another photographer shortly after leaving a dinner in Paris. Sure, it's not fun to have your privacy invaded, but resorting to violence really isn't the best way to air your grievances. Rihanna. One time a fan attempted to replicate the billowing dress that Rihanna had just worn in recent months and took it to prom. But since this is the age of the internet, pictures of the dress, which, admittedly, didn't look much like Rihanna's professional dress, but what do you want from her? She was in high school, ended up on Twitter being mocked by faceless posters, and Rihanna. It turns out she saw the dress and got in on the mockery, even retweeting her favorite insults. Woody Allen marrying his stepdaughter. He met her when she was only 11, groomed her till they formed their own relationship at 21, all while being in a relationship with the girl's mother. Mahatma Gandhi, a Nobel Peace Prize laureate, was racist. When a British colonial official compared Indians to Africans, Gandhi wrote an angry letter complaining that he didn't want his people to be compared to the Kaffir, which essentially is the South African N-word. Jay-Z has an uncomfortable history with extreme violence. Jay-Z started his own record label in 1996 after he was unable to get a record deal, which is pretty awesome. By 1999, he was growing in popularity to the point that record executive Lance Rivera was apparently bootlegging and distributing Jay-Z's work without his permission. So when Jay-Z saw Rivera at a party, he went up to the producer and proceeded to stab him in the stomach. Rivera luckily wasn't seriously injured by the attack, recovering fully after a short stint in the hospital. Jay-Z eventually pleaded guilty to the charge, which typically comes with a prison sentence reaching upwards of 15 years. Instead, Jay-Z paid Rivera $1 million and spent 3 years on probation. John Wayne stayed in Hollywood making movies, stacks of cash, and screwing around with the women left behind by their husbands during the Second World War. Meanwhile, many other famous actors and musicians contributed to the war effort, up to and including volunteering for combat. Then he had the gall to make movies about the battles that he avoided and somehow come out looking like a real American hero. I said this before. Beyonce privately sang for the Gaddafi family in the mid-2000s. She said she donated that money to charity, but there is a good chance she used that as a backup for backlash. Gloria Trevi, a Mexican singer who revived like a phoenix, as the news say over here. She was in a relationship with a famous songwriter who promised several families that he could make their daughters famous. So the songwriter and Gloria Trevi somehow convinced the parents to more or less give them full custody of their daughters. Well, 4 years these two and another woman had girls in their teens who they would abuse. The pedophiles basically received a slap on the wrist, and Gloria Trevi has basically revived her career as a singer and is more popular than ever. Charlie Sheen was out in Hollywood, having unprotected intimate time with women knowing he was HIV positive. He also shot Kelly Preston in the arm in 1990 while high. The fact that people think he's cool is insane. The whole Jeffrey Epstein scene point, that was pure evil and a lot of celebs were involved. Drake hitting up Millie Bobby Brown. Tim Allen attempted to smuggle £1.40 of illegal substances through an airport. He was caught out in, and I'm not making this up, Kalamazoo, Michigan. He then proceeded to turn the tables and ratted out every dealer he was aware of. It helped reduce his prison term by over a decade and kept him in the entertainment world. Matthew Broderick drove drunk and ended a person. Donald Trump created a fake university called Trump University. He plagiarized $79 lesson plans from the Learning Annex, then charged people $35,000 for it. Tom Brady split up with his girlfriend of 3 years, Bridget Moynihan, and immediately began dating model Gisele Bündchen. The two were even spotted on a vacation in Paris on Valentine's Day. What came to light at the time was that Moynihan was actually pregnant. So, he left his pregnant girlfriend to start dating a model and proceeded to keep seeing that model and fostering a setting that regularly insulted and belittled Moynihan's role as the mother of her own child. Richard Cheney shot a guy in the face, never had to stand in front of a magistrate or sit in the back of a police car in handcuffs. In fact, the guy he shot in the face went on the news and apologized for getting shot in the face. That is how you know he is a gangster. Not in a good way either. Any other person shoots a person in the face, accident or not, would have a vastly different experience and outcome. This isn't the most awful thing by any means, but do you all remember that Imagine rendition a bunch of celebrities did at the beginning of the pandemic? It was honestly one of the most insensitive and condescending videos I'd seen at the time, but I'm not sure if anyone involved actually apologized for how it was received. I feel like as a society we've all moved on now, but whenever I do happen to remember it, the irritation just leaps right back. But, again, this is nothing compared to some of the other monsters in this thread.